The Christmas tree is quite a nice simple pop out to make, although it looks a little bit complicated here. That's really just the lines that you'll be cutting out. But I suggest you print out the guide so that you can see where the folds are, the valley and mountain folds go, and of course the picture will help you as well. So the next thing to do is to cut out on the guidelines. You're now ready to put your score marks in, just to help with the folding. Now as ever, there's a central one that will run right the way through. Just a couple of notes to point out to you. First of all, and when you refer back to your plan, that there's a couple of folds here. The line doesn't just, you don't cut straight the way down. Actually the tree would drop off, so that's a little point to look out for. And these little corners of the tree just poke up. Now although you've got two ways of doing this, either running a score line straight the way down or just going to either side of the cut line. At the end of the day, it's up to you. You can always just manipulate it by hand afterwards if it's not right. So the first thing that I would do now is just put the main score line in, although you could make a valley and a mountain fold separately. If just by putting it in this way, we'll fold it in half. And then for the others, now I quite favour just doing this freehand. It's up to you. I'm just going to pop these in. You don't really always need a ruler for everything, on the smaller ones at least. And there's two on the sides here. Again, I will use a ruler for those. They're straight lines, they're important ones, but the other ones, it really is up to you. You could go freehand on some of the smaller ones. I'll just quickly show you. I'm going to work onto the outer parts of the tree here, so I could just stop either side of that part there and then just run through on these ones here. Okay, when you've cut everything out and you've scored it, the next thing to do, I think, is just to check that everything is free just to come out. So just a gentle little push, just to make sure that you've got all the elements free and you haven't missed out anything, as I have here. So I'll just put that line back in. It's easy to do, especially on a shape like this. That's not a problem, just come back and do it. And again, it's just usually just little bits, not quite touching. Okay, so the next thing to do is fold this in half. I'm going to just do the usual method here, just gently pulling that part out, turning it over, and then I'm just going to squeeze from the back across the line here, and that will get me my main fold. You can see it's a little bit fiddly. It's just enough to set it on its way, because the part underneath here comes out, so we can push it from the back and just pull it out. That should separate from the base of the tree. Can you see now, if I start to fold it at 90 degrees, I can just again tease bits out from the back. Once we've got those crease lines going, everything gets a little bit easier. There we go. So that's coming out there, and then just a squeeze from the front. And this part of the tree as well, that comes out. There's a little valley fold and a mountain fold, so a little push there, squeeze and a push. Sometimes it helps just to rest it on the desk. I'm sort of holding it up to the camera for you, but really whatever's easiest. Now I've got to start on the next part here. This is the tree itself, and that is also a valley fold, so I'm going to just pick the whole lot up, put it on its side there, and just gently run my finger along. Let's get that crease going, and just work about from the back here now and just squeeze it along. This is possibly the trickiest part, because we've got one bit going in and another part coming out on the base of the tree here. Again, I'll start to establish that, and a little bit of a push. Okay, that's a little bit tricky, but it's coming together. I just wanted to show you there. Now I've got to get the tree to come up and out, and what I find quite useful is to put this bit down onto the desk, onto a work surface, and just slowly pull. Can you see that action now? That's pushing out, and we're getting that lovely shape. And then at this point we can just make sure that the little elements here, that if we've cut them out, come up, just free them out That'll be okay, and we can see that the creases are beginning to happen. So just by pushing it over and then pulling it here, we're beginning to get our shape form. And at that point you can just turn over if you want and just gently work the back of it, but you can see it's coming up nicely. If anything catches, and I've got a little bit catching here, I haven't quite cut that properly, come back at this point. It's not always obvious to tell when you have freed everything off. And there we go. Now that's coming over beautifully now. Just keep it all under control and the star there, and give a little bit of a pull. That will be ready to come over and create a fold. I'm going to do the same on the other side now. Lift it up, pop one bit down on the desk and just gently pull it all forward. My crease lines there should work for me, and the whole tree starts to take shape as I pull it across there. It's quite important when you fold it to make sure that everything's closing properly. You don't want to put a crease line somewhere where there shouldn't be one, if you can avoid it. Now I'm just closing this up and everything looks fine to me, so I'll just put a little bit of squeeze onto that, turn it over, and again just gently press down. When I'm happy with that, in with a sheet of paper and just gently rub down, just to establish the proper fold lines all in the right place. They're all there. Use your hand, then with a ruler, I'm using my steel one or a plastic one, that's nice and smooth, just run over here. You might want to use a piece of card as well, depending on the thickness of your paper, but really you can see that just protects the surface of the paper and puts the crease in, and then open up, and we've got our card. You can see now a lovely Christmas tree. If I just move the camera, we can see how those folds work. The things to note on this particular one are that the little bits at the end of the fir tree that just pick out the detail of the end of the bars that physically give the lift, just create that nice Christmas tree lift. We've got to do something, and I think that makes it less obtrusive, and just our folds there. A relatively simple card to make, but as ever the tricky part comes in just the actual folds, getting all our lines in there. And there we go, that's the Christmas tree.